All right, I'd like to open the meeting at 6:01, and I would like to hear any nominations for the chair for next year.
I would love to nominate Amy Lee.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Thanks, guys.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Amy, on
Thank
another
you.
year. And then if you want to start with the nomination for vice chair.
I know.
You
Oh,
wanna-
and then I would like to nominate Frank Valenti as my vice chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, perfect. All right, let's read my right to know. As chair of the Plymouth School Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to executive order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically for the April 5th school board. We're utilizing Zoom for the meeting. You can find the Zoom information on the SAU website, www.sau48.org. It's also posted on the door of the school. If you're not able to access this meeting, please contact Tanya Orlando at torlando@pemmybaker.org. If the public cannot access this meeting, it will adjourn and be rescheduled. Agenda review and disposition. Is there anything to add?
Yes, I have one thing to add under other business, and it would be the exterior painting project.
All right, minutes of March 1st, 2021.
Move as written.
Okay.
second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, perfect, thank you. Privilege of the floor number 1. Hey, guys. How are you? Is there anything you'd like to say? All right, and, oh, Jenny Tebow's on, yeah? Is there anything? No? All right, moving on. Principal's report.
Hello. So we have 49 students enrolled at Plymouth Elementary School. 36 are virtual, which is 9 less than last month. So we had a little.
How many did you say?
409 in total. 36 virtual, which is 9 less than a month ago. 9 less virtual learners because we had 9 return. We had 3 new enrollees today, but that is included in the 409, and we have 3 more returning virtual learners in the next week. So, more and more virtual learners are returning. Virtual learning is going well, but we do have some struggling students, and that's part of the reason for the return. We've reached out to those families and said, it's going well here, and we would like to have a conversation with you about returning. April, we are focused on perseverance as our school theme for the month, and we have kids drawing pictures of what it means to persevere, an animal or an insect or a machine that perseveres. In May, the theme is going to be water, and we will have a water challenge. I've worked with the wellness committee to come up with a healthy theme for the month of May, and it's going to be water. Under curriculum instruction and assessment, I wanted to let you know that the PSATs were taken by our 8th graders in March, and they took that very seriously and did a nice job with it. We do not have those scores yet, but I was impressed by the focus and the attention to it. We worked during faculty meeting in March as grade level teams, looking at NEWA data, thinking hard about individual students in grade levels and their specific growth goal. So our faculty members will be meeting with students individually, having a coaching conversation around standardized achievement and setting a goal for that student, not based on proficiency, but based on individual personal growth. We are beginning to plan summer school, and we do have a fairly large list of students that we'll be recommending for summer school. We are strongly reaching out to anyone who may have teaching experience, looking for teachers for summer school. So we need teaching staff for both our ESY and our Title I summer school program. There's a group working on next year's schedule. Our plan, as I think I've said before, is to return to a 5-day-a-week, Monday through Friday schedule. So there's a group, Andy McDonald, Julie Panis, Sarah Sanborn, and Courtney King, and we're meeting every other week to develop a new schedule. Under social, emotional, and behavioral health, Sarah Carlson and I met with Jess Dutile and the state rep from Choose Love that was here a year ago, but we're looking at reinvigorating that for next year and starting the school year off in August with some presentations for the faculty around Choose Love, which is a program that came out of the Sandy Hook. It's a parent group from Sandy Hook it's a mother really, who has developed a free curriculum for public schools to work on social emotional health. And under student news, I wanted to let you know that the in the primary wing, the leprechaun visited and made a mess in the primary wing on St. Patrick's Day. Crazy leprechaun. And in the middle school, we were able to hold Winter Olympics. It got postponed twice, but it was a huge success and the kids really enjoyed having some fun. We need more fun. We had a full moon Yalta middle school glow in the dark activity night, and that was fun. There were about 13 students there, and the dress code group is ready to present next month. So they will be here next month. They'll have a draft that they've talked about, and I hope to have a lively conversation that night with all of you about the dress code.
Do they have a draft to give to them beforehand?
I can give it to you beforehand. Yeah. Under teachers and staff, I wanted to recognize Sarah Thompson in particular for the Read Across America work she did to bring attention to reading and doing different things in each wing. We had guest readers. We had Kyla Welch read one morning at PES News. Kelly Carey read one morning at PES News. It was really fun. And one of the 6th grade homerooms won the readathon, and the 3rd grade classroom did a spectacular job as well. So students were excited to drop everything and read. Also in the month of March, it was Music in Our Schools month. So we had musicians perform during PES News, and we had music playing in the building, both before school and during dismissal. And it was really fantastic. In the morning, we chose some nice quiet music. And then in the afternoons, it was a little bit of rock and roll. But it was fun. And Jake Stevens did an amazing job talking about different genres and different artists. And it was so good, we're gonna do that again next year. I wanted to do a shout out for the Unified Arts teachers. Their continued flexibility and endurance with being on the carts is really amazing. It's quite a task to manage all the materials for a day on one cart as you're moving around this big building. So really like to thank them for their flexibility. Under the parents and PTA, wanted to do a little shout out to the PTA, in particular, Jenny Tebow, for helping organize getting some food from the New Hampshire Food Bank and then helping to distribute that to a number of families at Plymouth Elementary School. So that was fantastic. And also clothes donations to Nurse Sandy. We have a number of students who've benefited from the clothes donations, so thank you. There is a meeting this Wednesday of the PTA, please attend. Wanted to do a little shout out to food service. They've added a staff adult lunch option, and it's nice to have something that's a little more adult friendly for lunch. Under facilities, I wanted to welcome Susan Gould, full-time custodian, to our staff, which is wonderful because we've had staffing issues, as you are aware. And then I think later on, we'll talk about some COVID-19 response and reopening guidelines later in the agenda. But I wanted to say recently we had parent-teacher conferences. Those went well. And for upcoming events, we have Kindergarten Connection May 13th please call the school and schedule. As of right now, we only have 13 people registered for kindergarten, which is nowhere near the number of kindergartners we're going to have. So
how many do you have you got this year?
30 this year. So spread the word, please register for kindergarten. If anyone you know, we've sent flyers to the local daycares and preschools. We put an ad in the paper, so spread the word.
Is that in person, Tanya, or?
It is in person. It's gonna be in the cafeteria. Yeah. And that's what I have for the principal's report.
Perfect, thank
Kelly
you.
for athletics and.
Hi, everybody. So starting with athletics, we got our baseball and softball started practicing last week on March 29th in the gym. And they alternated times between coming in early in the morning or doing the afternoon shift. Track and field joined in today. They started their practices, weather permitting, which has been great that we're outside this early, and hopefully we'll be outside for the remainder of the week. Our numbers are a little bit lower than in past seasons. We've just made a 9 on the softball team, and you need 9 to play. So we're able to pull that off. Baseball is 13, and track and field was at 35 today.
Can I ask a quick question? Why do you think that is? Is it because of COVID?
I think there's a lot of other things going on. You've got lacrosse, you've got Thundercats, there's a lot of pull. So, and it could be a little bit of COVID as well. So, yeah. But the kids that are out there are enthusiastic and they're doing great, so.
The Plymouth lacrosse numbers are reportedly higher than they've ever been.
Really? It could, correct, yeah. So our schedules so far are set for softball and baseball. They've got 11 games, and track and field has 6 meets. And we'll begin with the same events next week on April 13th. Softball and baseball open up, and then the following week on the 21st, the track season will start for them. And we already have our team photos scheduled for April 19th. So we're off to a good start. A couple of safety updates. Recently, members of the Plymouth and just SAU-wide fire and police department, along with Todd Austin, myself, and Carol Lavassa, met and reviewed some new alternatives for the eLerts app, which will be shutting down for good in June, which we use. We narrowed it down to 2 choices and had one last final presentation last week on the 30th. So at this time, it looks like the most comparable replacement is a program called InformaCast. And it's an app that can be installed on multiple devices, which is great. It's, so you can have it on your phone, on your laptop, on your desktop, and it's one cost per person. So you're not paying for 3 different devices. So that's great. Also really helpful for emergency personnel, because same thing, the dispatch can get it, they can get it on their computer and on their phone right within their cars. And then if we do receive an alert, it'll pop up on your screen, and teachers who might be in the middle of presenting in a classroom, so they're projecting something from their laptop, the alert will come up. But the good thing is they have what they call a scrolling ticker alert. So the alert will come up, but not the details of the alert. So then the teacher can then go back and either shut down the presentation or look on their phone as to what the details might be. A couple of other things. Just like eLerts, we can have exchanges with the emergency personnel. The system is also GPS location tracking. They can also take the map of our school layout and have that on their system. And the other piece is it's reasonably priced. It's pretty comparable to eLerts, maybe a couple $100 more, but it's based on the number of people that are enrolled. It's not just a blanket cost. So that's been good. So we're still working on that, but it looks like that's the direction we're going in. And then we've got this Wednesday, April 7th, we'll have our safety committee meeting here and talk about this app, setting up our spring bus evacuations, which we'll do in person this time, and just upcoming safety drills.
Do you know any other schools that use that system that you're potentially gonna get?
I do, but can I remember them at this moment?
Yeah, but I just, you
We did
contacted
ask the
other
question.
schools
I
to
wanna
say how do you
there
like
was,
it?
there might be a school in Derry, it was more a couple of southern schools that he had mentioned
Okay,
at the time, but there are some schools that already have it.
okay, all right, good. Thank you.
I have a quick question about the student involvement for athletic stuff. Like I know Dan O'Neill was doing that thing on, you know, increasing PE. But I was just wondering, I saw with your numbers, I think from the minutes was like 80 kids were in the winter sports. And now we don't, I think it was 80 kids in the winter sports or something.
Yeah, I have to go
But
back
do you know
to
like kind of percentage? I mean, usually they don't start till 5th grade, right?
correct.
So like what, just kind of a general off the top of your head, like percent of the kids participate in that so that we have like, I guess I'm just wondering, is there any way we can encourage kids who aren't doing lacrosse to be doing more exercise after school or be part of it? I mean, is it because there's not a bus that can take some of them home? Or?
I mean, over the years, it fluctuates every year. I mean, I think it was 2 years ago, we had like 25 boys on our 5th and 6th grade basketball team, which is almost, it's hard to handle that, especially for a basketball team. This year we had 7. That could be COVID, it could just be a number of different things. Personally, I think it would be great to have some type of after-school bus system because I do hear from a lot of kids that they just don't have the transportation.
Right.
So they'd love to play, but it's a matter of, I can't get picked up after the game or after the practice.
I mean, I just know, like, you know, your kids will go to lacrosse, and then there's other kids who play, you know, a school sport, but I'm just trying to think of,
And
is there any way we could support getting more kids to do athletic stuff without adding another PE class every day? I mean, is there some way we can try to increase some of that involvement with some of those kids who are just gonna go home and play videos or go back on that?
Right. And I think that's just a normal, I mean, having been a high school athletic director for years, it goes in waves. Some years you have an abundance of participation, depends on different, you know, grades. Some grades are, you know, everybody's an athlete that wants to do something. And then maybe the next grade level, not so much. But, and I think I think there's a lot of kids that are participating in something right now, but it's a lot of outside things too.
I guess that would be interesting to kind of know, I guess, if, you know, our kids actually going after school and doing something, be it lacrosse or some gymnastics or something. So
I would say given the numbers at high school, because I think the numbers are over 80% of students that participate in sports.
Wow, that's really
so
good.
But you have to remember, they include gymnastics, lacrosse, like you have all those kids that are at the high school now that are able to just be there and it's included as part of the program and they don't have to do the outside piece. So
and they have a driver's license.
And they drive. So it's you know, so that's great.
I was just.
I think we have one of the highest rates of participation at the high school in the state. But just, you know, we're so spread out in this SAU.
I know.
It just becomes a matter of can you get there or not.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You guys signed off on the,
I
there's
did.
no correspondence, is there any correspondence?
Okay. I do not have, I have one for non-public.
Okay, all right, discussion items, COVID reentry plan updates.
Sure. So a couple of updates that have come fast and furious from the Department of Health and an executive order from the governor's office. So you've probably heard about, as part of our reentry plan, we automatically update our plans to reflect what DHHS says. So the two major pieces that came up were, one is the travel has changed. So the travel is now, remember the question was don't travel out of New England or you have to quarantine. Now it's if you travel internationally or by a cruise ship, you have to follow the quarantine piece where you can test out of quarantine on day 6 or 7 with a PCR test. So that's only if you now travel internationally or by cruise ship. If you're fully vaccinated, there are no quarantine rules. On a good note, we had close to 90% of our SAU faculty and staff that were vaccinated at our clinic that we held on March 13th. Our second one is coming up soon, so that will be great.
You need any volunteers?
No, they're already all fixed. Thank you, though. So we're running that again coming up soon. The other piece was on close contact. So initially, it had to be, you had to be within 6 feet of 10 minutes or longer over a certain amount of time. Now there was an adjustment. If you're in the classroom, it's 3 feet. So you're only identified as a close contact if you're within 3 feet for that amount of time. There are no, I mean, we are well spaced anyways. We are within 6 feet in a few areas in this building, but not close to 3 feet. But that doesn't include unstructured time such as recess, playground, busing, hallways, stuff like that. So, and sports, that was the other.
So that's 3 feet only in the classroom.
It's only in the classroom.
Okay.
In a controlled setting.
Okay.
So there has been, I mean, Plymouth Elementary had an uptick last week of cases, all but one unrelated, and it wasn't from an in-school transmission. It was from an out-of-school get-together that there was a connected case. But, you know, what's interesting now, we had this issue at the high school a couple months ago, is that you have students that may be identified as a close contact and they're home for 8-9 days, and then they don't test positive until 9 days later. So when I release a press release, I will say there are no close contacts. And somebody might think, how are there no close contacts? Well, they haven't, when they left school, they weren't positive. They were just on, you know, if you're identified as a close contact, you're out for so long. So it does not affect the in-person learning. So that's just something to note. The other piece that's notable, you might have seen it last week, the governor ordered that all schools are in 5 days a week starting April 19th. Good news is we've been doing this all along. The other piece that's in that executive order is that a school may only shift to remote learning for 48 hours only. If you go beyond 48 hours for COVID-related issues, staffing issues, you need a waiver from the state.
Wow.
So that's different, you know, so we have shifted. I think our practice has pretty much shifted anyways. We're trying not to go to remote unless DHHS is telling us we have a cluster identified. So even though there may be 6 cases, 3 may be from the same family, 1 may be somebody who lives somewhere else, and 2, so they're not related. So I just, you know, sometimes the numbers kick up and people get a little nervous, but we're not going to remain open if they are all connected. So that's something brand new. So we will have to implement that piece. But we only usually typically shift for maybe a day or 2, and that's if we can't connect with all the close contacts. We don't really know what they are. If we're short-staffed, and the building's cleaned every night, so we have time to clean that piece to not have to shift to remote, or if we have a cluster and DHHS tells us we have to shut down.
And so you're saying you have to get a waiver from the State Department of Education?
If I go more than 48 hours.
Even if DHHS tells you to shut down?
It's in so it's, yes. But if it's a recommendation from DHHS, then my guess is they'll probably give us the waiver pretty quickly.
Well, you never know these days.
Yeah. DHHS is still contact tracing, so we let people know early, and the DHHS follows up with the families. So that has been the same. But you know, we're looking. We see the numbers going up a little bit in some of our areas, and we're just keeping an eye on it and doing what we can. But I think our mitigation strategies have worked really well. Really doing bringing it as close to normal as possible. Spring sports, we're following NHIAA and the youth sports guidance. So it's a combination of both, something that's reasonable to manage. And that is updated all the time. So we just kind of follow those those two pieces. Any questions on, I know, did you want to bring up the one about, there's one other piece that Tanya wanted to bring up to amend?
So based on that information, those changes and how well we've been doing, I would like to change the reentry plan to allow for the classes to eat in the cafeteria by grade every other day. So we very much do not want to change the schedule mid-year, and we don't have enough time to clean the cafeteria based on the way our schedule is built this year. So basically you'd have an A day schedule and a B day schedule. Half the classes would eat in the cafeteria on A days and half the classes would eat in the cafeteria on B days. Gives them a little bit more social options and back to normal a little bit, and gives the teachers the opportunity to be in their classroom during that time every other day. I do want to let you know that I put that out to all of the staff and to the PTA during last month's PTA meeting, and there are mixed opinions about that. And I'm just going to briefly say that I have, a parent who is very concerned about that and doesn't think that the risks outweigh the benefits. I have other parents, I have 3, 4 other parents who feel very strongly that we should be getting back to normal. And I had 2 teachers who took the time to write me an email saying, please do return to the cafeteria. And I do have some paraeducators who are concerned about it. They're worried about supervising masks in the cafeteria. The way we would do it, it would be assigned seats, every other seat at those round tables. And I did the math that the tables are 5 feet, they're oblong, 5 feet by 4.5 feet. We would reduce the capacity to 4 person at the table. But that's certainly less, it will be less than 6 feet and more than 3 feet between them at that point. But I want to be transparent that there are mixed opinions about that. I am still requesting that we do that. I think it's a good idea at this point, but that is a decision for you all to make. At the same time that you consider that, I would like you to consider moving back to the UA classrooms in a couple of specific situations. In the library here, where we can easily physical distance, and it's by cohort only. We would like to return to the library. The Spanish class is large enough to take each cohort into that classroom, and they would maintain the assigned seats and wash between classes so that we would maintain that. The music would stay in the homeroom teachers based on the fact that the music classroom is piled high with all of the extra furniture from around the building. STEM class, we would like to move back to the STEM classroom because there's so many materials and that's particularly difficult to move around the building, all of those STEM materials. The art would stay in the homerooms. Miss Einen felt that she's worked very hard to set up routines in each classroom and she would like to not take the time to set up new routines. And then as always, guidance and health and PE are already, as always, out of the classroom. So they would, well, in the guidance is in the, and health are in the classroom and PE is out of the classroom. So those would remain what they always are. If you had questions about specific things that the input included, I'd be happy to share that with you.
One of my initial thoughts is that I think it's a good idea, but is it the right time to do it with the, I think call it uptick of numbers? I mean, should we wait till we see that go back down
Well,
again and then do it, or?
It's an uptick of numbers for this building, but it's phasing, that group is phasing out. I think we're gonna do that. I mean,
You think it's gonna go like that?
it's not alarming, it's just not something that folks are used to seeing in this building.
And my only other concern would be with April vacation, now that the travel rules have changed, I'm sure that there'll be families that are traveling for April vacation. So that would be a concern for me that, you know, there could be after, just like there was at the end of, after the holiday for Christmas, there could be more cases. So that would be a concern that I would have. I think it's a good idea because I feel like it would be nice for the teachers to have a break because I know that they're with the students constantly. So it would be nice for them to have time to have the classroom. But I think at this point too, I mean, do we, you know, I would wait and see until after April vacation and then maybe the last month, you know, like, well, I guess May would be after vacation, but, you know, maybe a month before school ends, maybe then, I don't know.
After, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think after Christmas break, we didn't see a big uptick in student numbers.
But
correct, we saw a bigger uptick in staff. So now we're seeing a slight uptick in student numbers. So I actually, you know, I think this, the other piece, the socialization piece to this is important for the kids to be able to see their friends and take their mask off and get more into a natural, normal routine that's been kind of missing for the whole year. And I think also giving the teachers a break of half their kids is an important consideration as well. The one question I had, you said, Tanya, that the paras have some concern about policing masking during, like, can you kind of explain that a little bit more?
Just that with it being a time when you're eating, your mask will be off,
right.
And it's a social, and it's a social time, yeah. So you're eating and talking, and it's hard to keep kids quiet. And and we're actually doing it so that they can socialize.
Right.
So
what's happening with the classrooms now?
It varies very much classroom to classroom.
Yeah.
In the younger grades, we're doing a number of read alouds and we're playing hangman and doing things to keep the kids quiet and also to keep them eating, which with little kids, you know, read aloud is a great way to get the kids to actually eat their lunch. We would not do that in the cafeteria.
Sure.
In the older grades, it's more social, and I think that has been a challenge for some of the adults. Managing the sitting in your seat, you need to not be talking as much, you know, because your mask is down, but it's also the casual time for the kids to interact with each other. So it's.
Yeah.
But we envision kids in the cafeteria eating, but still being spread enough apart.
But it would be like here and there and like then one right there, right?
It's about, the tables are 5 feet, 4.5 by, or, you know, they're
Right,
all
but greater than the 3-foot recommendation.
Yes.
That is recommended by the health experts that have all these big brains.
And then you said something about having, after STEM, having it cleaned in between classrooms, in between classes coming in?
in between cohorts. Yep.
Okay, and who is gonna be responsible for cleaning?
The kids, so adult sprays, kids wipe. It's the only way we can do it this year. It is the only way it can happen. And including in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
So Gary went ahead and ordered 100 microfiber cloths so that we don't waste, trying to be green and not use paper towels. So either for this spring or for in the fall, getting away from the big bucket with the rag in it. Could we talk about the UA first?
I was going to say it's 2 separate issues.
It is two.
One
It
is
is 2.
cafeteria, one is classroom.
Yes.
Okay.
I would be in support of the UA.
Just the ones that I
want
mentioned.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does the STEM room have enough space?
Yes, I measured it all out.
Okay, I just know it's, I don't know, I seem to recall it's small.
The tables are 6 feet by 30 inches. I've done all the math.
Yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I believe you.
Okay.
Any other thoughts on the UAs? you're good with that piece, you can vote on
Yeah,
that piece.
I'd be in support of it.
So, is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Second.
All in favor of the UA?
Aye.
As discussed, not
Yeah.
across the board.
Yeah,
Correct.
Correct,
Yes.
okay.
As discussed.
Yes.
Yes.
and then the other issue is the cafeteria piece. We have it mixed across the SAU.
Yeah.
I know, I really want to, but I'm just,
I
is
know.
it smart? Like, they're obviously gonna have their masks off.
Well,
Is it possible to have an outside, set it up outside if it's a nice day?
For the middle school, yes, we have picnic benches, yes. Kids carrying trays from the cafeteria, younger kids, that's enough of a challenge for us to get from the cafeteria to the primary wing. I would prefer not to do that. I mean, yes, we have outdoor classrooms, but it's
Yeah, for little kids.
for
Yeah.
little
I mean,
kids,
unless they had bag lunches.
which is, and we have breakfast delivered to them, so,
Yeah.
you know, we're trying to.
So I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that I move that we accept Tanya's plan to go forward with the cafeteria as presented.
I would second that.
Okay.
I think we need to keep in mind, you know, this is we're hopefully on the tail end of things. We're not being cavalier with the decisions we're making, but we have to kind of balance things out with, you know, getting these kids back to a somewhat normal routine and schedule. And what's the real risk of having them eat together, which quite frankly, they've been doing all year in the classroom with their masks off. You know, it's a change of menu as far as I'm concerned. It's not necessarily a huge departure from what they're doing now. And something that they're going to be even more vigilant about cleaning. And, are they spraying their desks down after lunch now? So
Yes.
I think if I could, Zach had a question if you wanted to.
What do they do at the high school currently for the cafeteria function?
They eat in the cafeteria.
Or per table, correct?
Yeah, so, yeah, they eat it, so they have more of an open campus lunch now, so they can eat up in the hallways, up the high tops, there's availability outside if they can, I mean, it's much bigger scope, but.
But they've been doing that without major incident.
Yeah, the only piece is, you get a few more close contacts with it, but we've had no transmission from lunch, none.
Right, they're still gonna be distant, right? And
Yeah.
So lunch,
Why did you
lunch
say
is
that
6
to
feet.
me?
Well, we can't do 6 feet.
Right, so they
Yeah.
just would still have.
no, but they're still gonna
But
be
it's-
greater than
it's
3 feet.
feet.
That's-
Yeah.
Yes,
yes.
But the 3 feet was for a classroom.
So
Right.
just to differentiate,
Yeah.
there may be a couple more close contacts from this move, but at the same point, it still falls to 3 to 6 feet, and we have had no evidence of transmission, and the high school lunches are pretty busy. So, right.
Yes.
Just as a perspective of a teacher, I think that kids are really craving to get out of their homerooms and to be able to socialize with other ones that are in other homerooms. Because a lot, they're in their little cohorts, they're there all day, they don't get to socialize with their other buddies, and it's pretty impactful. They really, they see each other at recess, but it's evident that they're down. These kids' mental health is a concern.
I think also, somebody mentioned it, but when we think about teacher health and well-being and what we've asked the teachers and faculty to do, giving a teacher whatever period of time in the classroom without kids, I think if we can do that, we should try to do that.
All right, I vote.
I'm sorry, can I ask, was that unanimous?
Or,
Well,
we're still discussing.
We're still discussing.
You want to start at when?
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
After vacation? When, or tomorrow? Like
No, we would like to start Wednesday,
when? Okay.
or if you'd like us to wait a week, maybe next Monday.
I mean, if you're ready to go.
I don't know what the difference is between Wednesday and Monday, quite frankly.
So,
Someone want to make a motion to
like,
We did.
We already
Oh, you
did.
did?
Motion and
All
second.
right, everyone's all in
We're
favor?
yeah,
I'm in favor.
Fran?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes.
As Tanya presented.
as Tanya
Except for
presented.
Wednesday. Okay, thank you.
Certainly, if we need to dial it back,
Yeah,
if
we
things
can
go
always
crazy,
step
then we'll go back to,
Put that in there.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, that's for anything.
Well,
That's, I mean, that's always.
And I did think that, Kelly and I have talked about us, the two of us supporting the paraprofessionals who are supervising, that we can be more present in the cafeteria and help them out and set some guidelines that are appropriate.
was there anything else for COVID?
No.
Let's talk about the school calendar.
I passed around the draft calendar for the 21-22 school year.
Just want to say thank you for not putting a random half day on and then having a Friday off. Calendar for a working parent looks good so far.
So we are looking to start most of our SAU schools on the same day. Sometimes Waterville does their own thing, which is fine. But we're looking at the 30th as the first day of school. The grade out week beforehand are teacher in-service days. And then other notable pieces is we put in the parent conferences in November 24th through 26th. So some of the schools do half days before vacation, some do full days off. So it's typical that Plymouth Elementary does not have school the day before Thanksgiving or the holiday break in December. And then other than that, the February break falls a little bit later. It's really a March break, but it's because typically, and that came from the Department of Ed, recommended calendar. So mass vacation week is the week of the 21st. That's President's Day is February 21st. So it just bumps the New Hampshire week a week out. So it's a little bit later. April vacation is again the last week in April. And then last day of school projected on the 15th, and we are allowed to continue to do the remote days or weather days. So hopefully that doesn't, we had a couple this year that will make up, but hopefully the number stays small. That you can get out at a reasonable time.
So can I just one question?
Yeah.
You said if you have to go remote for more than 2 days, that's just for COVID, not for snow days.
That's for, right now it's for weather.
It is for weather as well.
And I think it's for anything, actually, the 48 hours, you just have to let them know why. Like one time we had no school for 3 or 4 days, and it was because of the microburst that happened. We weren't allowed to do remote, but I'm sure that they would waive that emergency.
Do we know when town voting?
So November 2nd, it would be the day of voting. And I scheduled that as a parent-teacher conference day, so that it's on the same day. So you can see that grayed out. I did want to bring your attention to that. I also wanted to say, I wanted to make note that October 26th would be a scheduled kindergarten, first grade, and I'm going to request second grade as well. The entire primary wing would like to do the open house on the 26th.
Of October?
No, of August,
Oh,
to get the kids in the classrooms before their first day of school. Come to school, meet your teacher, see what it looks like for a short visit. And then in October, we do need a teacher in-service day, and we would like to request Tuesday, the 12th, be our teacher in-service day. Correct, Mr. McDonald?
The day after Columbus Day.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the
You wanna
reason,
coordinate again? That's
I'm not going anywhere.
so we have a consultant that we have been negotiating with about when her days are open. Her name is Polly Bath. She would come and talk to us about supporting behavior in the classrooms, and she's available that Tuesday, which would give families the opportunity for the 4-day weekend if they wanted to do something that weekend. And it gives the teachers a day to focus on that in October. The only other day would be a remote day in January that she was available, and we don't think that's the best way to bring that PD to the building. So I would request that. Many of the other schools are taking Friday the 8th as an SAU-wide PD day. And the high school is taking a January day, but I would like to request that we do it differently and do it on the 12th.
Do we have anything, last month we made that last minute change for election. Is there anything in March of next year?
Right.
There'll
be town elections. Do we know the date of that?
Plan that as a remote.
So typically it's the second Tuesday, which is the 8th.
It's the 8th.
Can we make that?
So if we make that, can we schedule that as a virtual day?
That's what I was thinking. That's what I was gonna ask. If we can, because the school will be closed, if we can make it a remote day.
I would need to go back to the teachers. So I have collaborated with the teachers union leadership around what I've presented tonight, and I sent the entire document out to the full faculty to talk about. So I would want to talk to them about that option.
Do we need to, I guess is the question. It may be too early to decide whether we need to, because in years past, we've had school those days, right?
You can decide later too. I mean, it's not, I mean, we decided on some of the other pieces later. We can definitely do that if we need to, but we do need to consult with the union on that piece.
Do we envision, so I know no one has a crystal ball. If you do, please tell me what you think the lottery numbers can be. So the same kind of drop off, or do we think we'll have more kids on the bus, kids getting here at a more normal time? Are we envisioning 21, 22 being the same in terms of that kind of stuff?
I think that there will be more kids on the bus. I will let you know that many of the faculty members and definitely the administration feels like the drop off in the morning has significantly positively impacted students' ability to come into the building and get down to business, and eliminated a lot of discipline issues, and that the playground time, sometimes there would be 200 to 250 kids out on this playground for 45 minutes. And we don't, with hopefully 2 people on duty, that's a lot of kids for two adults to supervise. So
is there talk of starting school earlier then? Because I know for 8:25 drop off for a working parent, is not convenient at all. So that's the part that we have to factor in. Like, if you're gonna eliminate that 45 minutes that you can drop them off beforehand so that you can get to work on time, then I think it's important to take a look at the count, like the time that you actually start school.
I think we're not there yet. I think that we are going to look at having some of those before and after school programs available again, and get back to normal as much as possible. You also have all the remote kids coming back to in-person. We're not recommending a remote option for the fall. So our hope is we're back to operations as usual, but use some of these strategies that we had this year that worked better for everyone and put them in place. But, I'm sure Parks and Rec will open,
I think that
because all the kids were staggered last year. Now everybody comes at once, which I think just having some of those options, we had it before, a couple other before school programs too that work.
I think expanding the opportunity for before school programming. So if you're dropping off early, you're dropping to a person in a program versus you're dropping in the SAU parking lot. So I think it's important that we have a real conversation around supervision and safety and options for families so that they can get to work. And with the bus, the bus capacity will, I assume, swing back to normal. And, the buses will pick up at least half an hour, or well, depends where you live, I guess, at least 20 minutes prior to the 8:20. And I mean, 10 of 8.
Okay, so we can discuss that as it gets closer.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. I suspected that's what you would say, but I wanted to get a sense of what we envisioned. And I appreciate that comment about discipline of teachers. That's an important consideration for all of us as well.
So you need a vote on this?
Just on the calendar.
Okay.
And then we
so
get, yeah, you can always come back and adjust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we accept the calendar as presented.
Second.
With the 12th as
Yeah.
the service day?
Yes.
Okay.
And primary wing open house.
Yes, for the kindergartners, yeah.
All in favor of that?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. End of the year events.
So Tanya's going to speak a little bit to, now that we're getting close to June, graduation and any of the end of year stuff that usually happens. We're going to try to make it happen. So I'll hand it over to Tanya.
So our last student day based on the 2 school cancellation days is Thursday, June 17th, which makes the last teacher day Friday, June 18th. Which means that I will be proposing tonight that the 8th grade graduation be held on Monday, June 14th at 6 p.m. And their 8th grade committee is working on that being held outside on the field hockey field. We are working with the 8th grade parents to plan a day away adventure on the Thursday the 10th. So we are, and then each grade level is researching some field trips. So we will be working our darndest to get every single grade out on 2 buses so that they can physically distance to a relatively local field trip opportunity, but something fun outside with a big picnic and yeah. But you know, moving as a grade level only. So that's what I have for end of the year activities at this point.
Good, thank you. And then the exterior paint project.
Yeah, so I know it's something we talked about all through the budget process. And we had talked about through the CIP plan, deferring the exterior paint to see where we were with the budget this spring. So I have some preliminary numbers that I'd like to share with you. And I would like to request that you approve moving forward with the painting that we had discussed all through the budget process. So right now, I was just looking on just the appropriation side. We have significant savings in a number of areas.
Is this it on this budget?
No, it's just in my notes.
Oh,
Particularly around special ed transportation, you have a savings of $77,000. So just in that line alone, you have plenty of funds to move forward on that. I'm looking at some other purchase orders and what we're spending in special ed to see if we're going to need that for the rest of the year. We do not in many of the areas. Other savings, some of the deficits were obviously substitutes in salary line. But that was expected when we went into this with the remote staffing that we had to put on, as well as the number of subs that we've had in the building this year. So I'm confident to say we have the money now to move forward with the painting. And John Francis wanted me to share with you, he can do that. He's going to try to do some of that. I think April break, he was going to get moving on it soon. So if that's something you want to move forward, I would ask for that.
I'll make that motion. That's what I was hoping would happen when we took it out of the budget.
Second.
Yeah, all in favor of that?
Aye.
Painting building.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And just for a note for next month, I will have the details of where you are within the budget with that funding taken out, the $50,000 for that piece, as well as some of the other major CIP projects to be moved forward. We'll also talk about some of the CARES ESSER money that's coming through that's significant that we're going to move forward with, probably upgrading many of the HVAC systems in areas where they haven't been upgraded yet. Some of the big projects that fall under that. We're still waiting on some of the stipulations with the last funding. There's a couple more hoops to jump through with that piece. But just so, I mean, the numbers that are coming in, so you received a little over 500,000 in the ESSER 2, and the ESSER 3 or the CARES 3 is 2.5 times that amount is what they're giving us. So it's significant. But everybody's going to be looking for the same thing. You know, every school is going to be looking for a new HVAC system. So we're seeing, you know, how much we can, if they're going to, you know, it's going to be over a few years. So just
the supply of it.
It's going to be interesting how this actually, I don't think they're thinking about the implementation of it, but
It's good though.
but they're getting pretty creative. You can use it for social emotional stuff. You can use it to upgrade your building in areas where ventilation may be down. Like, so but they're getting a little bit more specific than our first pot of money. So we're waiting on that piece. So John Francis has a list ready to go.
Oh, I bet. Of course he does.
But it knocks off a lot of those high ticket, you know,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
projects that you won't have to raise money for. And then some of it is allotted towards learning gaps and technology and stuff like that too. So we've used a lot of that money for already. Summer school things, staffing some of that, those extras. So that is that. But that's just to come in May. I'd really like to talk about that May, June. And you will have, it looks like a unreserved fund balance of what you'd like to retain or what you'd like to return. So just something to think about what you want to do as a board. Okay, and I'll have Dan come to explain some of it too towards the end of the year to help you navigate that process.
Thank you.
That's it.
All right. Thank you. Privilege of the floor number 2.
I have 2 questions now.
Yes.
First, in this March, we had a remote day for town voting, and then on Friday, we had a half day for parent-teacher conferences the second half of the year. Is there any chance of combining those 2 events? So that
What was the second one? We had a half day for parent-teacher conference, and we had a remote day for town voting.
So if we're gonna have a remote day and a half day, could we?
So teachers, I think teachers cannot teach a full remote day and do parent-teacher conferences on the same day, I guess.
That's what we talked about doing earlier, right? Like trying to not have your days for parents in a week.
Yeah, it was discussed. I do remember
We could,
that.
so we could go back to the union and ask about that as well.
I mean, whatever way we want to do it, but or have parent-teacher conferences in a different week then. So you're not looking at, you know, a weird Tuesday and a weird Friday. That week we figured all week in and out.
We put in the parent-teacher conferences in March.
Well, what if they
There for half day.
a half a day?
Right.
Remote. And then, you know what I mean?
It was the voting, because the voting is on the second Tuesday.
Like that may work itself out anyway.
That it does, because it's the eighth and the 17th, so it's not the same week next year. But I still think we could ask the question about whether or not those could be combined. We did, I remember the last school board meeting, I called the union leadership and they requested that we not do that at the last minute. That the planning of that would be too much at the last minute.
Yeah.
I don't think that the Tuesday after vacation is a great parent-teacher conference day. It's the only thing I would say about that. But I could go back to the.
Or even if we had a half day remote and then a half day parent teacher, so it can be combined on some day.
Is that something the board wants us to look at, or?
Just it's really more a question for the union, right? What they're able.
I'm trying to reach out to the.
Yeah.
Yeah, can we revisit it next meeting?
It'd be ideal to have it
Yes.
all in one day, but that's a CBA.
Yes,
And what was your second question,
My
Sarah?
second question, are there any recommendations on what to do with staff members or others who opt out of vaccinations? Are you hearing anything from the CDC or from the state?
No, vaccinations are not something I even request. So it's something that teachers just report if they are exempt from it or not. We don't collect food. We don't. So I don't even ask. That's kind of their private medical stuff. So I don't even ask that piece.
Is anybody having any conversations around what's going to happen if vaccinations are open to younger age groups?
If they're open, so they are open for 16 and up already.
Right.
And then if they're open 12 to 15, if that is approved, I know that our local public health network wanted to work with us as far as maybe instead of a flu clinic, it would be a COVID vaccine clinic if they would want that. If they have the capability to do that and gain the vaccination, I think we have a lot of local folks that would like to help with that piece. There's plenty of availability. I know for the 16 and older group. So that's all I have for answers for that piece. I wish I knew all the answers to it,
Yeah.
but.
Is there anyone on Zoom that has any questions? No? All right. So I'll make a motion to go to non-public.
I move that we go to non-public session.
I second. All in favor?
Bye.
All right.